A 2-month-old baby, think about that for a second. Not a teenager, not an adult, a 2-month-old infant, locked in a detention facility. Let's watch this debate, and I'll break it down for you at the end.
Released last week, she said medical staff initially refused to see her after she began hemorrhaging profusely, soaking through 6 sanitary pads in an hour. Eventually, she was taken to a hospital. And last summer, a 32-year-old man died at the Florence Center after being detained at a facility for roughly 3 weeks. Now, that facility is being run by a company called Core Civic, and they have a statement saying, "Nothing matters more to Core Civic than the health and safety of the people in our care." He says the facilities routinely pass government inspections, and the reports of substandard care are simply not reflective of the hard work their people do. DHS simply says in a statement, it is a choice to be detained, and people can simply self-deport. But I just ask, are we still good with holding children, some as young as 2 months old, for indefinite amounts of time in any kind of facility that is basically a jail?
Look, I don't like hearing those stories. I want everyone to be safe and get the health care and what they need. I think it is a reminder, though, that we frankly don't have the resources to provide health care for the millions of illegal people who came in here. And on the other point of people sort of complaining about
you mean in
detention
the jails or just
centers,
in general?
Just in general. It's interesting. I mean, for years, the media ignored these stories about people who were complaining, whether it was in Texas on a border state or Springfield, Ohio, of immigrants who were flooding their towns and they didn't have resources at all.
But you're being asked about children in a
it's
detention
interesting
center,
that was never covered.
Taking health care.
And now
That was covered.
it
was covered.
It was ridiculed. People
No.
who.
It was definitely covered.
People who were trying to erect the border walls in
Should
their
we be keeping
facility
children in
Texas.
detention facilities without the proper health care?
I
That's
think
the question.
I would like. My understanding is children are getting health care there.
They're
I think
not.
they should get. I'm saddened to hear of that report. If that's true, most of the reporting I've seen on these detention centers are that people are getting education and health care. So I, of course.
Well, look, I mean, I think both things can be true at the same time. It
That
is.
we're getting education.
But hold on,
in these
hold on.
detention
I
I'm
blame
just-
these.
listen,
These
I don't
parents,
wanna-
though, for putting their children in this position.
Hold on. Look, there are at least some cases. There's one case where a family had, during the Biden administration, had come through the CBP One app. They had been inspected. They had gone through the application. They were told they could come into the country, and now they are being detained with their young child in a detention facility. Now, you can disagree with the actions of the Biden administration, but what is the point of punishing children for their parents doing something that was the illegal process at the time and putting them in, again, regardless of how many nurses they have or books they have in these facilities, these are jails.
Abby, when you're dealing
right?
with millions of people, there's always
the point
going
of
to be
that?
horrific stories like this. That's not going to stop. I think a bigger issue
but you
is
realize
there,
that the
is there a
the
middle
scale
ground
is an
in
issue here,
Listen
right?
to this. I mean, I talked to a farmer from Iowa last week while I was in Florida, and he told me that if we threw out all of the people that work on his farms, we wouldn't eat anymore. And so what he's asking for is say, wait a second, if this person came into the country, is supporting a family, never broke a law, is there some kind of middle ground to help him get his papers as a citizen, perhaps, while he works and feeds America? That was his question. I said,
it's a good question, but
it is
Trump
a good question,
promised
and it makes
mass
sense.
deportation.
Remember, if you broke a law, if you actually are found in, I don't know, ICE or some other law enforcement entity, and you clearly came here illegally and you broke a law, I'm sorry, you're gone. You may have to stop.
The question was simple. The question was moral. Are we okay with this? A 35-year-old woman soaking through 6 sanitary pads before medical staff would see her. A 32-year-old man dead after 3 weeks in private detention. A 2-month-old infant imprisoned indefinitely. A family that followed the legal process being punished retroactively. A private company profiting from all of it while issuing press releases about how much they care. And the response from the people defending this policy is whataboutism, resources, Springfield, Ohio, the media, deflection, change the subject, anything to avoid answering the actual question. We are watching a government deliberately inflict suffering on vulnerable people. We are watching private companies profit from that suffering. We are watching administration officials respond to death and injury by saying people could have simply left. And we are watching defenders of this policy pivot and deflect and change the subject because they know on some level that there is no honest defense of what's happening. This is who we are right now. This is what we're allowing. The only question is whether we're going to keep allowing it, whether we're going to keep accepting the deflections, whether we're going to keep forgetting the question every time they change the subject. A 2-month-old baby is in a detention facility right now. That's the subject. That's the question. And we deserve an answer.